So this guy just got off of work, got on the city bus to be on his way home. As he gets on the bus, he pulls out a book by William Prescott and decides to start reading it. He becomes so into the book that he pretty much forgets about everything that's going on around him. By this time, the bus had already dropped a lot of people off and he was still really into his book, not looking up or giving anything else attention. That was until something grabbed his attention. He said that, this is described by him by the way, he says that he started hearing women laughing, and when he looked at the front of the bus, 3 of the most beautiful women got on the bus and he was just in awe. He mentions that 2 of the 3 girls were a little older, but that the 3rd one was close to his age. He says that their bodies were beautiful, even the way they were dressed and they carried themselves, he was just like in awe with them. He said that one of the older ones was also carrying a baby, and what grasped his attention even more was that the baby was also like the most precious, beautiful baby he had ever seen. So he tells us that the older 2 women sit to the left of him and that younger one sits right in front of him. Basically, they all sat really close to him, even though there was like a lot of areas for them to sit at. He goes back to reading his book and he says that the girl, the one that was closer to his age that sat in front of him, decides to turn around and say, "Hey, are you reading William Prescott?" And obviously that grabs his attention because he's like, oh my gosh, she knows what I'm reading and that's interesting. And he's like, yes, it's William Prescott. I love this book. And she's like, oh my god, I love it too. So then she asks him, have you read all of his books? And he was like, no, I'm actually starting with this one. And she was like, oh my gosh, back in my house I have the entire collection, and now that we're getting to know each other, maybe you can come back home with me and I can lend you all of my books for you to read. She was like, maybe after I give you the books we can go eat somewhere, we can talk about the book some more. He looks at his watch and he's like, oh, it's really late and I have to work tomorrow. I would love to, but I just cannot do this tonight. He said that she becomes insistent on him going out, that she even looks to the mom as like, mom, right, he can come over for dinner, then we can go over the books. And the mom was just like, he can come over. Red flags. So maybe 2 to 3 stops ahead, he notes that 3 men and 1 lady get on the bus. And the reason why that grabbed his attention was because he noticed how weird one of the guys was looking at him. He said that the guy would look at the women and would look at him, and then he noticed that he started whispering something to his friends that got on the bus. He was like weirded out because he's like, why is this dude staring at me and at these beautiful women? Like, what is he saying? What's going on? He was so confused at the way the guy was looking at him and at the women. At one moment he even thought he probably thinks it's weird that these beautiful women are talking to me, and I don't know, he thought maybe they were jealous, or maybe he thought it was weird, or maybe he just thought that they were the most beautiful women ever, and obviously got that dude's attention too. He said that this entire time the girl was still insistent on him going home with her for these books. He just reiterated that he couldn't and it was too late and that he apologizes. So they get to the next stop and all 3 of the women get up and start exiting the bus. But he says that one of the older one looks back at him and says, we'll meet each other again. He said that something about the way she said that made him feel weird, because until that point, yeah, he was like, it's too late for me to go with these women, I'm not, I have work tomorrow, but he thought it was just like a normal conversation, a normal, thing that was happening. Nothing serious, nothing weird, until she said that to him, where he was like, what the fuck? He says that as the bus closed the door, he could hear them laughing, like walking away, and the bus starts to move forward. And that was when those 3 guys that had gotten on with that other lady got close to him and they were like, hey, I'm sorry if I'm gonna ask you something weird, but I feel like I have to ask you something. So one of those 3 guys were like, what were you doing talking to them? And he was like, oh, they got on the bus and they were asking me about the book. He was like, no. What were you doing talking to women with that aspect, like the way that they look? And he's like, what do you mean what aspect? Like, they were beautiful women. And the guy was like, no. Those women had like scratch marks and deepened eyes, and like they smelled disgusting. Their clothes were ratted. They looked inhumane. And the guy's like, what do you mean? They were beautiful women. And the guy kept going. He was like, they smelled nasty. They were ugly. And that dog that they had with them. That's when the guy was like, dog? They had a baby with them. The guy was like, no, they had a dog that had missing teeth and all slobber was going down his mouth. And that dog was looking at you like if you wanted to attack you. And the guy's like, no, it was 3 beautiful women with a baby. So at this point, he's in a state of shock because he was like, no, like I saw beautiful women. And that was when that lady that had gotten on at the same time with the 3 guys got close to all of them because she had overheard everything. Son, those women were witches. She was like, you need to know that these women get on the bus very frequently and they try to take young men like yourself. She starts telling him that close by is a cerro, or like a mountain, and that there is a cave that they call the Cave of the Devil, and that cave is known for people going there and doing rituals. And she basically tells them that you just saved yourself because even though they're witches, they cannot take you against your will. So you did a good job by not going with them. And he starts thinking back at his whole conversation with the girl and how insistent she was at him going with her, but obviously, they weren't taking him. They were just very insistent on him going, and he was like, no, I can't go. It's too late. I have to work. So he says that the three guys and the woman get off and he ends up being alone on the bus, but he was in a state of shock. He was scared, and he cannot stop thinking about that whole interaction. So this happened in Mexico, and it comes from the podcast Paranormal, or podcast Paranormal. If you want to go listen to it in Spanish, please go check them out. But what do you guys think? Oh my gosh, the fact that he saved himself, but only because he had to work the next day. Imagine if he didn't have to work the next day.